As all of you know, we are here to attend an institute lecture organized by the Office of the Dean Students Alumni Affairs, Dean Alumni Affairs. The speaker of today's evening is Mr. J.N. Mohanty. So we start the proceeding by welcoming Mr. Mohanty. I now request Ms. Susmita Maiti to please come and present the bouquet to Mr. Mohanty. So then we have an inaugural song. It is titled Arjo Bharato Barsho Amar. It will be done by Sri Sachin Das and his team.
ভারত বর্ষ আমার জ্ঞান গরিমা গর্বিনী আর্য ভারত বর্ষ আমার জ্ঞান গরিমা গর্বিনী দ্যুতি প্রেক্ষা সুরক প্রজ্ঞা দুলক দীপক মালিনী জ্ঞান গরিমা গর্বিনী রক্ত তপন ক্ষিপ্ত আলোক রশ্মি পুলক ঝলক ঝলক রক্ত তপন ক্ষিপ্ত আলোক রশ্মি পুলক ঝলক ঝলক দীপ্ত রিক্ত পাবক ঘোম মৃত্যু বিজয় দারিণী আর্য ভারত বর্ষ আমার জ্ঞান গরিমা গর্বিনী নভমণ্ডলে সাংগীতিকা নাচে দোদিলে তারা বালিকা স্থির চঞ্চল কত ছলিকা প্রণব সন্ধে প্রণবলিকা ঋষি মানসরিক প্রতীকা প্রজ্ঞাপূরক জ্যোতিষ শিখা ঋষি মানসরিক প্রতীকা প্রজ্ঞাপূরক জ্যোতিষ শিখা দুরিত দাপট বিনায়িনী জ্ঞান গরিমা গর্বিনী আর্য ভারত বর্ষ আমার জ্ঞান গরিমা গর্বিনী হোমের অনল নাচে ছলো ছলো বহে সরস্বতী সিন্ধু প্রবল ত্রিশোদতী দিল অর্ঘ্য চলো স্ফুরিত ইন্দু স্মিত ঢল ঢল চলে ভাগীরথী ডাকে কল কল সাগর ধৌত চরণ যুগল চলে ভাগীরথী ডাকে কল কল সাগর ধৌত চরণ যুগল তুঙ্গ ধবল কিরিটিনী জ্ঞান গরিমা গর্বিনী আর্য ভারত বর্ষ আমার জ্ঞান গরিমা গর্বিনী অচ্যুতর শ্রীদীপ্ত কেন্দ্র পুরুষোত্তম চিরয়তন্দ্র জাগিয়া আহ্বান বিপুল মন্দ্র অমর লাপনা জীবন সান্দ্র আর্য গরিমা গভীর মন্ত্র ছলকি সত্তা একটি তন্ত্র ভারত বিশ্বরিতায়িনী জ্ঞান গরিমা স্ফুরক প্রজ্ঞা দুলক দীপক মালিনী জ্ঞান গরিমা গর্বিনী আজ ভারত বর্ষ আমার জ্ঞান গরিমা গর্বিনী।
Professor Amit Patra, Dean, Alumni Affairs, to please introduce the speaker to the audience.
Good evening, Sri Mohanty, Professor Acharya, ladies and gentlemen. Sri Jyotindranath Mohanty, who is going to be the speaker today, is a Shahaprati Ritik of the Satsang founded by Sri Sri Anukul Thakur Anukul Chandra and presently holds the post of Secretary of Satsang Vihar, New Delhi. He graduated with Master's degree in Public Administration from Utkal University in 1964. He has a deep understanding of theology and philosophy of many religions. He is a freelance writer in several Odia dailies, editor of English and Odia souvenirs, an excellent orator as we will find today, and has translated several volumes of Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra's philosophy from Bengali to Odia and English. He has taken a keen interest in bringing awareness among the youth about how best to contribute to the society. He has addressed audience in several medical and engineering colleges, universities and institutes across the countries, among them IIT Delhi, NITs, Polaris Software Lab, Chennai, Utkal University, Govinda Ballabh Pant University and many others. He is one of the members of Central Satsang Council, and for his erudition, commitment and capability, Revered Acharya Dev of Satsang has chosen him as the Secretary of Satsang Vihar, New Delhi. So, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome Sri Mohanty and look forward to his enlightening talk today.
लोकतिलकं सात्वतवार्ता विभूषणं अमरकृत्युत्सारणं प्रबुद्धं लोकजीवनं प्रणय प्रमत्त जागदीपनं वंदे जीवन जीवनं सत्पुरुषम्. Let me first pay my respectful pranams at the lotus feet of my master. As you listen, Sri Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra and the present Acharya Dev of Satsang, Sri Sri Dada, most revered director of this institute, Professor Acharya, revered Dean Dr. Patra, present in the audience, respected teachers, and my young friends. It's a matter of great pleasure for me this afternoon to share the thoughts of my master, Sri Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra, on the subject of this evening with you all. As the topic already announced, contemporary challenges, the role of the younger generation. Let me reverse the subject first. Younger generation, which symbolizes the youthful spirit, a spirit which is ever active and adventurous, bold and brave, confident and creative, disciplined and dreaming, energetic and enlightened, frank and fearless and forceful, innovative and imaginative, progressive, powerful, and ever optimistic. That is what is the spirit of the youth. Youth is not a time of life, but a state of mind, a vigor of emotion, a test of the will, an appetite for adventure over the love of ease, and a predominance of courage over the sense of timidity. A man does not grow old by living number of years. A man grows old when he deserts his ideal, when there is no mission in his life, there is no program in his life, when there is no agenda in his life, then only he becomes old. And so far as the younger generation of this country is concerned, now they constitute between the age group of 25 and 30. Challenges are many, both internal and external challenges. Immediate challenges that our younger generation is facing today, as you all know very well, is the challenge of the professional career. Following the global depression, now our younger generation facing those who are in the high profile workforce of the country. Shrinkage of jobs, pay cuts, reduction of perks, and so many psychiatrists have come forward with the statement that these losers are suffering from acute psychiatrical problems. Problems of insomnia, problems of irritability, problems of feeling uselessness, sense of uncertainty, insecurity, withdrawal syndromes, lack of communication with family and friends. And some of them have started committing suicide also. So this is a phase through which our younger generation is passing today. How to combat these challenges? External challenges are many, but the internal challenges, as Param Prime Minister Thakur Anukul Chandra has pointed out, are more formidable than the external challenges we are facing in different fields of life. What are these internal challenges? These internal challenges are our sense of intolerance, selfishness, unwillingness to do something, inferiority complex, tension, restlessness, frustration, depression, emotional breakdown, so on and so forth. These are the internal challenges which makes us unable to face the external challenges that we are facing in different fronts of our life. We are facing this at the psychic level, at the family level, at the physiological level, incurring obesity, fatigue, so far as the health problem is concerned. And our younger generations are more addicted so far as their food habit is concerned also. It is also posing a sort of challenge to our younger generation. They want to climb the highest rung of the professional career and become so very crazy, thereby incurring obesity, fatigues at the physiological level, and at the same time separated with the spouses, uncared for parents, delinquent children. These are some of the challenges that our younger generation facing today who are pursuing the professional careers. Friends, these are very formidable challenges. And this has been pointed out no less than the outstanding scientist of the 20th century, that Albert Einstein, who at the fag end of his life, in a statement called World as a Seed, has very pertinently pointed out what is going to happen to the society and the mankind as a whole. I quote, "Projections dreamt up by the past generations will observe our immediate descendants. Forces terrific and devastating will crowd our lives. Luxury, comforts and amenities will observe us, but our hearts will act. Minds will be barren. Lives will be bleeding. If we have not a vision about material things, and without a growth of mercy, pity, love and peace, science will destroy itself and all that makes human life majestic and tolerable." Friends, these are the challenges that we are facing today in our life, is because of the impact of the Western civilization during the last half a century. Which has made us more and more selfish, self-centered, and we are confined to our family, which is called the nuclear family. Only consists of self, wife and one or two children. The ideals of India, as you all know, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the whole world as our family, the global family, the ideal that was envisaged by our ancient masters. Ayang nijo parobeti ghanana laghu chetasam, udaro saditantu Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, Mata me Parvati Devi, Pita Deva Maheshwara, Bhrataro Manuja Sarve, Sudesa Bhuvanatram. This was our ideal, which is reduced now to the nuclear family. And the more and more we become selfish, self-centered, the more and more we become narrow, and we suffer from many killer diseases. That's what they say, psychosomatic disease, called the blood pressure, the hypertension, the paralysis, the cancer. All these diseases, these killer diseases, are taking heavy tolls of our lives. Udara Charitantu Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Man is a social animal, as said by Aristotle. But we forget our role towards the society. Here I am reminded of a very interesting dialogue between a sadhu and a young man. A sadhu once asked a young man, "What are you doing these days?" "Studying." "Why are you studying?" "To take exam." "Why do you want to take exam?" "To get a certificate." "Why do you want a certificate?" "To get a job." "Why do you want a job?" "To live my life." "Why do you want to live your life?" The young man fumbled, confused, and was upset, could not give a proper answer, and was irritated, and said, "Why are you confusing me like this? I cannot die, that's why I want to live. I cannot commit suicide because suicide is a very great sin. That's why I want to live." The sadhu very politely and very affectionately said, "My boy, life is not to die like that. There is a purpose of living also. There is a meaning of living also. And that purpose is to live for others. You are a human being, our plants world, our animal world, they live for themselves. But so far as the human being is concerned, he has to live for others. We are here for the sake of others. As Einstein has pointed out, man is here for the sake of others. And in a very beautiful manner, Einstein has stated how many times a day I understand that how much my inner and outer life is built by the labor of others, and how earnestly I should work for them, those who have been working for me and still working. Einstein has gone further to point out this. The books you are reading, written by others. The house you are living in is built by others. The food you are eating is produced by others. The dress you have put on is made by others. In so many ways you are indebted to others, but you don't want to do anything for others, you want to run away without doing anything for others. It is impossible. It is something very unnatural, and for which you are bound to suffer. Only here for the sake of other man, so far as my master Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra has said it very beautifully, he has philosophically pointed out this question, this idea. He says, when I see light, it presupposes the existence of darkness. Without darkness, we can't understand the light. When I say day, it presupposes the existence of night. When I say happiness, it presupposes the existence of sorrows. Similarly, when I say I, it presupposes the existence of others. If others are not there, I am also meaningless. So I am inextricably interwoven with that of others. Without others, I have no existence. So in so many ways, I am needed to others. Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra, when he was a student of class 8, he said that when he came across a very beautiful line of Bible in his course book, he said, all my problems of life are over. And I started practicing those lines. And what was those lines? Do unto others as you wish to be done by. Thy necessity is greater than mine. These are the two lines of the Bible which inspired Sri Thakur. He says that throughout of my life I felt that all my problems were solved by following and practicing these things. And since right from my birth, I was conscious that my birth is not for myself. My birth is for others only. Human life is so very important. In so many ways this can be explained. But Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra has made a very scientific approach to this idea. Why this human life is so very important? He said, when a human being is going to be born, the male and female are united. The male discharges millions of sperms, and the female ova only accepts only one of the sperms of the millions or millions of sperms discharged by the male. And all other sperms are potential human beings. So millions and millions of human beings are sacrificing their lives for the birth of a single human being. Just think of how important, how valuable is our life on this planet. How many lives have sacrificed for the birth of ourselves. So, we are not our. As the students of a leading engineering institute of the country and the world also, you have been dealing with many sophisticated instruments in your life and your career. Some scientists believe that the universe is like a machine. It obeys certain laws. It behaves according to certain laws. But we are not aware of a machine. Sri Thakur has very pertinently pointed out, which comes into existence of its own, grows, develops, repairs, reproduces its own kind, improves upon itself, sets its own tasks, loves, hates, and disappears. Even the most sophisticated machine invented by science and technology needs an operator, a director, and a maintainer. But here is a machine which comes into existence of its own. And if Sri Thakur says universe itself is a machine, if the most sophisticated instrument is directed and sustained and maintained by some remote control or something, how can it be believed that this universe, which if it is a machine, is operating itself without a director, without a maintainer, without a ruler, without a sustainer, which is far and far infinitely superior to the machine itself? So friends, this machine which has been gifted to us, that is what is our human anatomy. Sri Thakur says you have to take care of this system so that you can achieve many, many finer and finer things by conducting and observing the hygiene principles of life, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional hygienes. Only you will be able to solve the problems that you are facing today. Challenges will be always there in all societies at all times of the history. There were challenges, contemporary challenges were there. But to face these challenges, failure is not weakness, as Thakur says, but to fail to try is weakness. How to handle failures, how to handle the shortcomings, which is not being taught in our educational institutions in those days. We are taught so many things, but we are not taught how to discipline ourselves, how to be a respectful and responsible member in the society. We are not taught about it. The Western civilization has so much preoccupied our lives during last 60 years of our independence. Sri Thakur says that whole of mankind, human society is interconnected. We are all interrelated. We are all interdependent, which are all mutually fulfilling. We are all complementary to each other. We are all interknit. James Dean, the greatest physicist of the 20th century, in his book Physics and Philosophy, has very rightly pointed out that when we see ourselves from space and time, we see that we are separate from each other. But beyond space and time, when we pass, when we see ourselves, we are all united whole. We are evolving together with the society. The entire mankind is united whole. So we are mutual interdependent. So it is our very nature to work for others, to live for others. As long as we are living for ourselves, we are becoming more and more selfish, self-centered, and inviting so many problems to ourselves and to the society. As young men, your life is not only important to you, your life is equally important to your parents, your family, your society, your country. Life is not a business. In the present day sense of the term, everything is business, everything is commercial. Life is not a business to be managed. It is a mystery to be lived. Life is challenges to be met. So we have to regulate our life. But how to regulate this life? What do we know about this life? If anybody asks us, what is this life? We can say this much, that this span between birth and death, that is our life. But this life, man is an eternal wayfarer. This life was existing before our birth. This life will exist beyond our death. The present existence is the interim period of our life. We are eternal wayfarer. So we have to take a decision. While conducting life, while regulating life, we have to take a decision with the reference to the context about which we are not aware of. There we need someone to guide us, someone who knows our past, knows our future, knows our present. Only he is the selfless, extreme, supreme well-wisher of our life. And only with his guidance, we can correctly conduct our life. And down the ages, such a personality has been identified in a single word in our scriptures, that is called Purushottam. The literal meaning of which is the best fulfiller, who fulfills everyone, whether it is animate or inanimate, plants or animals, human being or otherwise, instinctively and characteristically. That is what is the role of the Purushottam. When someone asks Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra, so many spiritual guides are there in the society available, whom to accept as spiritual guide, whom to accept as our guide. Sri Thakur, better ask this question to yourself. You ask this question to your own mind. What your mind wants, what your mind hankers after. Every human mind hankers after something highest and best. When you are a student, you want to be topper in the university. You want to score the highest mark. When you are in the job, you want to draw the highest salary. You want to occupy the highest post. When you are dressing yourself, you want to dress yourself with the best of the dresses. When you are going for treatment, you want to be treated with the best of the doctors, best of the hospitals. When you are trying to eat, you want the best of the food to eat. So in every sphere of life, human mind wants highest and best. And this highest and best is symbolized in the personality of Purushottam, as has been emphasized in our scriptures, who is all fulfilling. When he becomes our ideal, when he becomes our guide, and he guides our life, then only we become interested. Someone came to Sri Thakur and asked him, we have no time to work for others. We have so many problems of our own selves. If we try to solve them for generations together, lives together, we cannot be able to solve our problems. And you say that you have to work for others, you have to live for others. How is it possible? We have no time. Sri Thakur said, all right, don't do anything for others. Are you interested to do anything for me? Yes, sir. Anything we can do for you. Then you need not do anything for others. He came forward with a statement. You are for the Lord, not for others. You are for the Lord and so for others. Tasmin tuste jagat tustam pranitam pranitam jagat. This Purushottam is such a personality. By fulfilling him, by following him, by accepting him, one normally and naturally cannot but do things for others. If it becomes our spontaneous habits, if it becomes our natural and normal habits, then there is no problem for us. When we are consciously doing something for others, we think that he is somebody other than us, then the problem is there. But when we think that it's a part of our job, our own interest is interwoven with the interest of others, then there is no problem. It is gone for all time to come. Such a personality, down the ages, he comes at the critical juncture of the time in the form of Avtar Purush. And he is the selfless and supreme well-wisher of mankind. In today's world, we don't find someone before whom we can unfold our heart, we can unburden our heart. These things are missing in our life today. because of the impact of the Western civilization, which has made us more and more materialistic, individualistic, and selfish and self-centered. Pointing out to the consequence of this Western civilization, as far back as in the year 1928, the great historian Oswald Spengler in his book, The Decline of the West, has said, I quote, I say you are dying. I see in all the characteristic stigma of death. Your great wealth and your great poverty, your wars and your revolutions, your socialism and capitalism, your pessimism, your cynicism, your broken down marriages, your immorality, all these are breeding you from the bottom and killing you at the top in the brains. And I can prove that these were the characteristic signs of the dying ages of the ancient states of Alexandria and neurotic Rome. This is what about the impact and the consequences of the Western civilization Oswald Spengler has pointed out as far back as 8 years back. Arnold Toynbee, the greatest historian of the 20th century, has very aptly pointed out, at this dangerous hour of human history, the only way to the salvation of mankind is Indian way. He says there's no other way can save the humanity. It is only Indian way. Indian way is not the way of any political leaders, any cultural, any educational, or any economist, or any scientist. Indian leaders are those leaders, those avatar puts down, they just who have come down at the critical juncture of this civilization. Jada jada idharmasya glanir bhavati bharat abhyuthana vadarvasya tadatmanam srijamyaham paritranaya cha sadhana vinashaya duskritam dharmasasthapanarthaya shamavami juge juge. These are the selfless, supreme well-wisher of mankind who come down the ages to save the mankind. And it becomes our humble duty to accept him, follow and fulfill him. By fulfilling him only we can fulfill ourselves. In this way only, today, so far as the challenges are concerned, as I have pointed out, the internal challenges are more formidable than the external challenges that we are facing today in our society. How to fight out these internal challenges? It can be fought out successfully only by following such a all-fulfilling spiritual guide, a common ideal who is all-fulfilling, ever dynamic, ever loving, ever enlightening, and cultivating the spirit of mutual interdependence. To follow him, precisely I can tell you that you have to concentrate on him, you have to meditate on him. One has to practice meditation and concentration. So friends, there are so many meditation shops nowadays available in the market. So many people have come forward and have started teaching meditations. But meditation is not simply sitting cross-legged, straight-backed, hands folded, eyes closed, mind focused between the two eyebrows at the center of the forehead and expecting something to happen, and when nothing happens, getting upset. It is not what is meditation, it is not what is concentration. The word very concentration, the compound word, there is concentration. Well-wisher of the humanity is known as the Purushottam. So I want to give you something concrete. anybody who is interested in it, if at all we are really interested in our future, in ourselves, then without hesitation, without further delay of time, we should come forward and accept such a personality, such a spiritual guide, whom I have mentioned the highest and best as symbolized in our scriptures. As our mind wants, in every respect our mind wants highest and best. As young men and women, when you are going to select your bride, you are also thinking you want to get married to the most beautiful woman in the world, either Vishwasundari, Brahmanda Sundari. Even in India, when a woman wants to marry, she wants to get married to a person who is as handsome as Hrithik Roshan or like that. So this is what is the hankering of human mind. Even in India, when a one to die, he wants to go to straight away to heaven, and he wants to die at Varanasi, Puri, or somewhere, so that he can straight away go to the heaven. This is what is the normal hankering of the human mind. And so this highest and best, as I said, is symbolized in the balanced and integrated harmonious personality of the Purushottam, who is the future guide of the mankind, who is the common ideal. Once Sri Thakur was asked, there are so many communities, so many organizations, and all are saying that they are the best, they are the highest, they are everything. How there will be unity among themselves? Sri Thakur said, you have to build a platform in which all differences will wipe out and all of them will be getting together. Sri Thakur, is such a platform possible? Sri Thakur, yes, if you cannot make it, nature will force you to make it. Nature, out of its own existence of self-preservation, will do that. But before that, you have to incur a great loss. Then he was asked, who is going to be the leader of that platform? He said, in a single word, Purushottam. Sri Thakur himself has not said that he is Purushottam. But all his symptoms, all the characteristics that point out that he is the Purushottam. Jo mame vasambudha janati Purushottam, sa sarveda bhajati mam sarva bhavena bharata. It has been said in our scriptures that those who worship me as Purushottam, only he worships me correctly and perfectly well. So, such a Purushottam is going to be the future guide of the mankind as a whole. So far as the younger generation is concerned, the kind of stresses and strains that we are experiencing in our day-to-day work-related life, we can fight out only by pursuing the kind of meditation prescribed by the Purushottam, which is the highest form of meditation and concentration. And here, Satsang, founded by Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra, has come forward with his authorized persons to initiate people with this holy mantra. This mantra is nothing. Whatever is seen in the world outside is nothing but the manifestation of an all-pervading vibration. And this mantra, the more you practice this mantra, the more you meditate on this mantra, the more you concentrate on this mantra, the more and more your mind becomes concentric, positive, confident, all-fulfilling, and you will experience the greatest kind of fulfillment in your life. He himself has not said that he is Purushottam. So many people have come and asked him this question point blank. Thakur, you are saying about the Purushottam. Are you Purushottam yourself? He said, I don't know. I know that I am the son of my father Shivchandra Chakrabarti and mother Manmohan Devi. They say me Purushottam, they say me God, they say me so many things. But I know that I have my own parents, I have my brothers and sisters, I have my wife and I have my children. Why they say me Purushottam, God, everything, I don't know. Once an American woman came to see Thakur and asked him, Thakur, all your followers say that you are God, you are Lord, you are so on and so forth, but I want you to say what you are. He said, mother mine, if they call me God, will it make me greater than what I am? If they call me devil, will it make me smaller than what I am? As you see me, so I am. Time and again this question has been put to him, and he has very politely declined to give his own identity, but which has been revealed in so many ways to the devotees who have been pursuing him sincerely and practically in their day-to-day lives. They are experiencing it. So such a well-wisher of mankind, about whose thoughts and ideas I presented to you, it is my entire intention that our organization of friends, Dr. Dalai, who has been making all this effort to make this program very successful, along with his colleagues, I thank him very much. And I am traveling across the country, spreading his thoughts and ideas, his message to the people as far as practicable in my own life. And if any of you, some of you come forward to accept him, then the program will be all successful. This is what is my humble request. As a humble servant of my master, I want to put before you with these words. I want to conclude, and before I conclude, let me invoke the blessings of my masters and my Acharya Dev to bestow on you. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve shantu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Thank you all.
So now we have time for troubleshooting. This is the time for the questions. If you have any, please ask.
Sir, when first time Macaulay has visited to India, when he observed that India is such a great and India is having such a strong culture, when he visited to different part of country, he observed that there is no beggar, there is no cheap, and there is no stealing thing, and peoples are very cultured and well mannered. So what he think, he has given in somewhere written also, that if we want to weak the India, we have to weak its education system. So what you want to say about our present education system and all these internal and external tensions and all these things?
Well, it's a very pertinent question. Actually, so far as Indian education system was concerned, there was a very advanced system of education was prevalent in India at the time of Nalanda and Takshashila. And the system, to speak precisely, was teacher-oriented system. Actually, Dr. D.S. Kothari, who was the chairman of the University Grants Commission, he came to Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra. Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra himself was not educated in any university. He even did not pass matriculation examination because he could not be able to appear the examination because of some reasons. But many vice chancellors came to him, many educationists came to him. He wanted to bring about a radical change in the education system of the country, and in which he says that mostly the education system should be teacher-oriented, Acharya-kendric education system, which was prevalent in the University of Takshashila, which was prevalent in the University of Nalanda. What was the system? Sri Thakur wanted, today as you all know that the engineers, the graduate engineers of this institution and others, they are not opting to go for teachership because teachership is not that lucrative as other professional careers is there. And research and other activities, they are also gradually declining in our universities. Postdoctoral papers, doctoral papers, they are not also forthcoming because the students are not interested. As far as Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra is concerned, he said that the teachers should be treated as the first-class citizen of the country. Until and unless you do that, teachers will not be able to inspire the students. In this connection, Sri Thakur himself has pointed out demonstration, in a demonstration that when a teacher will go to meet the chief secretary, how the chief secretary will leave his chair and stand up and pay respect to the teacher, he himself has given demonstration to before these educationists. In this connection, I am reminded of a very interesting example. As you know, a very humble teacher of United Kingdom once wrote a letter to the Emperor of England to allot a piece of land to him to set up a school. The Emperor was very pleased and he immediately allotted a piece of land and the school was set up and school started functioning well, started flourishing well also, and the school became very famous in course of time and the students' results were also very excellent. But never the Emperor was invited to this school. The Emperor came to know about the results of this school and he was very much angry why the principal did not invite him once even to the school to inaugurate some function or to give away prizes, etc. How ungrateful this teacher was. He granted him a piece of land and he set up a school and this thing is going on and he is not caring to invite him once even. So he, from his own side, he sent out a tour program. On such and such date, I am going to visit your school. As soon as the letter was received by the principal, who was granted that plot of land, he very politely wrote back to the Emperor saying, if at all you are interested in the bright future of the students of the school, please do not visit this school at all. And he has stated the reasons. So why? Because till now, my students know that the highest respected persons in the society are the teachers. Once you come to the gates of this school, I will be there at the gate to receive you with my hats off, along with my teachers. And when these students will see that the Emperor of England is more respected than the teachers of this school, it will cause a great decline in their respect for the teachers. Shraddhavan lavate jnanam. This spirit will build. So if you are really interested in the bright future of the students and the school, please do not visit the schools at all. The Emperor read that letter. He did not take any action against the school principal. He did not transfer him. He did not suspend him. He didn't take any disciplinary action against the principal. But on the other hand, his curiosity to visit that school was 100 times great. So once, in a very disguise, in a very civil clothes, without any security, without any fanfare, he came to the school, visited the principal, paid his respect, picked up the dust of the school, touched his forehead and said that the plot of land I have granted to you was really very successful. I am very happy to see it. And the school which was started in this fashion, in course of time grew into be the distinguished university of the world known as Oxford University. Well, the student-teacher relationship was like this. So Thakur Anukul Chandra, when Dr. D.S. Kothari, chairman University Grants Commission, came to Sri Thakur said, he asked this question, that there are so many student discipline in those countries, in this country today, and we have set up so many commissions, and these commissions have given the reports which are leaking dust on the corridors of the parliament. We are not able to solve this problem. What is your suggestion about this problem? Sri Thakur said very politely, well, Dr. Kothari, what do you mean by indiscipline? What is the root of this word indiscipline? Indiscipline has come from the word discipline. What is the root of the word discipline? Discipline has come from the root disciple. Who is a disciple? Disciple is one who follows the teachings of the Acharya. He is a disciple. Dr. Kothari said back. I said, who is an Acharya? So Professor Acharya is here. Who is an Acharya? He said, Acharya is one whose thoughts, speech and action are perfectly coordinated. He is an Acharya. Now, how many such Acharyas there are in your school, colleges, universities these days? Dr. Kothari kept mum. If at all you are interested to remove this indiscipline, you make the university or education system teacher-oriented, Acharya-oriented. When there will be Acharya, there will be disciple. When there will be disciple, there will be Sishya. When there will be Sishya, there will be discipline, and discipline go forever. Dr. Kothari was so stunned. He said that our commissions have given so many reports, but by scanning the word itself, you have given the solution. How wonderful it is. It is not my credit. Our masters, our ancient masters have coined these words. These words contain the solution itself. So as you said, I fully agree with you that the system of education that was obtained in India in those days was very advanced system of education. If at all we are really interested, this is not at our disposal. There are so many factors that are responsible. So we have to bring back that sort of atmosphere in our education institutions. Then only teachers will be themselves inspired and will be inspiring to the students, and the students also will be inspired to take up the job of the teachers. Thank you.
Sir, what are the good things we have to learn from external society, that is West? What are the good things we have observed that has to be imbibed in India?
I can't get you really.
That what are the good things from West we have to translate it to develop our nation, India, particularly for the
There
youth?
are so many good things in the Western way of life. Discipline, patriotism, sense of belongingness to the country. Today, our younger generation, our officers, our corporate sector has become very, they are becoming corrupt because they think that they have no sense of belongingness to this country. They think that country is somebody else, something else. We have nothing to do with for this country. We want to prosper at the cost of the country, at the cost of the society, at the cost of the nation. But so far as our Western society is concerned, that feeling is there, sense of belongingness. Not that there are exceptions. Exceptions may be there. In every society there are exceptions. But this thing is always there. Sense of patriotism is there. Sense of punctuality is there. Sense of doing good to others is there. These are some of the good things. Simply we are imitating their dress, imitating their habits, imitating their smoking, imitating their whining. This is not to be imitated.
Nothing is permanent in this world, but if someone having the means human being, it is continuing their age, then it is fine. But so many disasters are happening in the world. They are not means they are innocent. Even from the childhood, they are losing their life. Then so many examples are there. Then how you are seeing that? Means how you means that thing can confuse a person who is living a very good life, very means helping others, and in that way. Then in that type of situations can misguide or confuse that person. Then how that person can handle that confusion?
Really, it's a very pertinent question. Actually, when the whole society is becoming corrupt, when the environment is very hostile, it's very difficult for an individual to pursue a very honest and ritualistic life. It's very difficult. But at the same time, once this question was asked to Sri Thakur Anukul Chandra, he says that I believe in individual reformation. Because until and unless the individual reforms himself, the family is an extension of the individual. The society is an extension of the family. And state is an extension of the society. So at the basic unit is the individual. One philosopher has said, he who has reformed himself has done more towards reforming the public than a crowd of noisy important patriots. Sri Thakur, when he was asked that the whole society is corrupt, it is very difficult to live an honest life in the society, he said, see, you cannot change the society. If at all you want to change the color of the water of the ocean, you cannot change the color of the water of the ocean if you attend for your lives together, Thakur said. But from that very ocean, if you pick up a bucket of water and try to change its color, you can do it easily. Similarly, the world population is now 660 crores. And these 660 crores will change and you will change. It is impossible to happen. You have to change yourself to change the society. And a person who is practicing reforming himself is so much engrossed in that pleasure, in that happiness, in that ecstasy, that he doesn't bother about what society is doing, what state is doing. He doesn't bother about all these things. Because perfection is something which is ever arriving, never attaining. The more and more you try to perfect yourself, you will find that the still beyond is always there, and you will have to pass that beyond. So one has to start from oneself. Charity begins at home. You have to start from yourself only. Thank you.
Yeah, excuse me, sir. I saw one phrase which basically says, never die, or rather never cause death, and try everything to avoid it. So could you please explain it? What does it exactly mean?
This is a statement of Sri Thakur. Don't cause death to others. Ma mriyasya ma jahi sakyate chit mrityum avalopaya. The English version of that, as you told. That means, what is death? Sri Thakur himself has said that death brings out changes on life. With the physical death, our life is not going to end for all time to come. We believe in the rebirths. So far as the Hindu scriptures is concerned, Indian culture is concerned, we believe in the rebirths. So, Sri Thakur says, by causing death to death means you have to cultivate a smritivahi chetana. If we carry the memory of this birth to our next birth, then we are all immortal. So it is very difficult. And at the same time, Sri Thakur says, by practicing this meditation, concentration, and a single-minded devotion to the Supreme Being, to the Purushottam, one can cultivate this aspect, this idea of this Prativahi Chetana, by which he can conquer death. He can become immortal. By doing so only one can do it. And by practicing this mantra, is very essential for that. This mantra which has been given by Sri Thakur at the time of Diksha, that is given to you, how to practice it, how to meditate, how to concentrate on this mantra. By practicing this mantra, one can experience this. And he also has given a very, I have no time to, I don't want to detain the whole house to answer your individual question. You can meet me, I am here also tonight in the guest house. We can discuss about it, how to practice this mantra and what is Diksha. Our Ritiks are also here, Kepuda is here, and others are also here, who can also explain you these things. So, precisely Thakur says that if one wants, one can also overcome death. And death, what is death? The physical termination of this life and nothing else. But our memory continues. And in order to cultivate this continuous memory, that is Smriti Bhai Chetana, is what is the purpose of our life. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. No more questions now. As Mr. Mohanty said that he's here, he's leaving tomorrow. So those of you who are interested, please stay back and ask questions as many as possible. And as you know that this program is time bound. So now I request Professor Acharya, the director of this institute, to present his lecture. The vote of thanks.
So with due respect to the august audience here, I would like to say that I am honored being here to do the formalities. I would like to express the deepest sense of my gratitude on behalf of the organizers as well as from all of us here to Professor Damodar Acharya, our director, for all the patronage that he has provided us and his permission to hold this lecture here. Special thanks are due to Professor Amit Patra, our Dean of Alumni Affairs and International Relations, for taking all initiatives in organizing this lecture here. So members of the security staff and the persons in charge of this auditorium, this nice auditorium, the staff of the electrical, audiovisual and the air condition who have made our lives so very comfortable here in this nice auditorium, I would like to thank them all. Research scholars and students who have worked untiringly with Dr. Tarun Dalai in organizing this lecture, I would like to thank them all in person. Now the success of this lecture, it depends on how full the auditorium is. And I think we have a reasonably good audience today. I would like to thank you one and all. I hope that you have enjoyed the talk as well as you will also go back return from this auditorium with some additional wisdom from the lecture of Mr. Mohanty. And so I thank you for being here with us today. And the lecture of Mr. Mohanty makes me remind that we need to have enlightening scientific and technical discussions. At the same time, we also do have to get ourselves enlightened with such kind of spiritual talks. And on that note, I would like to thank Dr. Tarun Dalai for all his initiatives to organize this lecture. So, sir, Mr. Mohanty, we are deeply indebted to you for coming all the way from New Delhi to here to deliver this talk. And I hope that in future also you'll get the opportunity to listen to this golden voice again. Thank you very much, sir.